All right, ladies and gentlemen, continuing with the lies of the Enlightenment. Number 1, Enlightenment itself on channel Endeavor in YouTube world. Junk, junk, junk. Let's hear some more junky junk.
More enlightened over the past 3 centuries is a major contributor to Western guilt that we feel over our history. It suggests that the reason we were more violent in the past is because we lacked proper education, and that we just had liberalism back then, all this conflict would have been avoided. It also suggests that violence in the past was the result of a lack of ethics rather than the circumstances that existed back then. This is why evil is attributed to things like...
So he's saying that it was not a lack of ethics, it was simply their circumstances. So we cannot judge. And if we were to go back to that situation now or in the future, we wouldn't be able to have any moral injunctions against it. This guy's pretty dangerous, pretty scary.
Colonialism, slavery, the Crusades, or other such events in European history by our intelligentsia. That they were these evil, racist, religiously superstitious white supremacists who oppressed all other peoples for their own gain. The reality is that in order to maintain a civilization in past eras, it required things like hierarchies, social norms, obligations, industries, and ethnocentrism.
It required ethnocentrism? Alright. Because these past societies survived in that way, does not follow, it does not follow that they had to. If they would have had a better idea and better philosophy and better culture, they would have done better. He just takes for the past as metaphysically given, as absolutely inevitable. Not as the result of action that was done and could have been done different and should have been done different and could have been done better and in the future could be done better. No, dispenses with all that. He takes history as metaphysically given. The wars, the productivity, the hierarchies, metaphysically given. He just says it just was. He says these people had to exist in this way. And so it's metaphysical fact. He's not going to be able to look at history and learn things from it with an attitude like that. He's not going to be able to look and say, oh man, they really should have done the French Revolution different. French Revolution turned out pretty poorly, right? Because he's going to look at that and say, the French Revolution was done the way that they needed to do it, according to the circumstances at the time. We can't judge them for, ethically or whatever. Strange position he's staking out for himself. Strange position.
Needed to be enforced, sometimes by the sword. If they did not enforce their own dominance, a rival tribe, nation, or empire would come in and assert dominance over them.
Now why... Okay, agreed. Agreed. Either you are dominant or someone will dominate you. Fine. So the world has bad people in it. That's all that says. Now, why does it follow from that that the terrible things that those states did in the past were necessary? Or that they were done out of metaphysical necessity? Rather than that they were done out of stupidity or incompetence or lack of education? It doesn't follow. He's not able to make moral judgments about history. He's just said we can't. He said it's false and wrong for us to... Wow. He's dispensing with morality because of now why would you dispense with morality? Morality is the way to live a quality human life. If you dispense with morality, what's left of quality life? What does he offer? What is he going to give us if he dispenses with morality in this way? If he says that we can't morally judge that... This is moral relativism. This is Kantian moral relativism. Through what path does he get to his Kantian moral relativism?
Left-wing intellectuals will say that this is institutional waithism, but it's not. It's just the reality of the game of civilization.
See? Just reality, guys. Racism and the way these wars went and all this suppression and racism, just reality, guys. He just takes it as a metaphysically given, doesn't it? Can't question it, can't think morally, has no moral philosophy, no moral dimension.
People often say we shouldn't judge the past by today's morality, but this is also a mistake, because it plays into the narrative that humans have become more enlightened over time. Rather, we shouldn't judge the past by today's technology.
We already went over that in the previous video, whether or not humans have become more enlightened over time. If everybody read Voltaire when they were a kid, the world would be a better place. If everybody read the Quran when they were a kid, the world would be a fucking shithole.
When man's means of survival are more difficult, he will become more brutal in order to ensure he survives. If you took a group of 1,000 educated and
when man's means of survival are more difficult, he'll become more brutal. Alright. So, is that just a broad justification for violence and war? Is that why he said that sentence?
People out of a Western country today and put them on a deserted island with scarce resources, liberal values would not exist on this island. There would be no...
Alright. Liberal values are a result of wealth and safety and freedom. Right? Right? People don't have respect for each other and help each other and give charity to each other when 50% of people are starving to death and 30% of them are slaves, and so what he dismisses as liberal values, those are just luxuries that we have because of the Enlightenment. God damn it, because of the Enlightenment.
In only a short period of time, they would quickly revert to the means of survival required, and the entire facade of enlightenment would disappear. In that context, guilt over a past in which resources were much more scarce makes no sense whatsoever.
Of course it doesn't make any sense to feel guilty about the past. But to change the future is fine. We can look at the past and say, look how bad those people were. Now, why should I feel guilty about that? I didn't do that. What do you mean guilt about the past? What does that mean? We weren't there. Of course, why would we feel guilty about the past? Get over it. There should be no guilt about the past. We weren't there. See, this is collectivist thinking. He's a tribal collectivist. He's a tribal collectivist. He can't think outside of the group. He can't think that he's an individual and that everybody around him is just like him. Individuals. He can't think that way. All he can think is the group that smears out over time. And his group had slaves, right? He thinks his group had slaves and he's part of that group. Those people died. We don't have slaves. We haven't had slaves for decades and decades and decades. Nobody alive today had slaves. No one alive today was a slave. Those people are all dead. You know why? Do you know why they're dead? Because of a huge fuck-off war called the Civil War where we solved that problem. Now, we solved that problem by spreading Enlightenment ideas. Funny, isn't it? That would be how we spread Enlightenment ideas, by doing away with certain people or doing away with their system through the use of force. So, what I'm trying to say there is, this was not an easy project to build, post-Enlightenment world. The Enlightenment world was not an easy project to build. It was bloody, and we had to fight bad people like this guy, who can't think and can't reason.
That this took place in every civilization, not just the West. Europe was just the most successful. It was also the least brutal in its rise to power. Just look at the histories of Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. They were full of slavery, war, genocide, and so on.
To say Europe was the least brutal in its rise to power is a bit strange. We were pretty brutal, but we were brutal because we had productivity and machines and guns to go around and do stuff with. I mean, it's easy to do bad things, especially if you have no compunction and you've been, brought up to believe that you're Christendom and Christians need to spread the word of Christ. If you've got disgusting evil religion behind you and nobody on the planet has guns like you, and nobody on the planet has ships like you, then it's easy. It's easy to cause atrocities. Any numbskull moron European with a ship and 50 troops could destroy whole cities if he made his way to America, because of the difference in wealth and technology. That's all that we see there. So, were they brutal? Yes. Everybody else was brutal. Did they have slaves? Yes, everybody had slaves. You're right. It was an equal flush. But they were pretty brutal, but it's because technology. They had the productivity and the freedom, and they had technology. So it made that difference.
Except they aren't made to feel guilty about this. Only Europeans are supposed to feel guilt over their history. And
yes, well, you ought to start waking up to the fact that the people who are trying to make you feel guilty are the post-Enlightenment, anti-Enlightenment people that hate the Enlightenment and freedom and progress and reason. So you are annoyed by them trying to guilt trip you, so you are going to join their camp and help them fight the Enlightenment. Your IQ is not very high, then, if you're being tricked by them in that way.
Largely due to this narrative that we were unenlightened back then, but enlightened today. Secondly, the lie that the Enlightenment morally evolved the West makes us...
Well, just before, I'll back up so we don't miss what he's going into. But just before that, what do you imply with that, then? That we were enlightened back then? That we can go back to the state of society before the Enlightenment and be better off than we are today? It's the only implication I can think that that would have. Let me rewind and just make sure I didn't miss what he said.
They were full of slavery, war, genocide, and so on. Except they aren't made to feel guilty about this. Only Europeans are supposed to feel guilt over their history, and it's largely due to this narrative that we were unenlightened back then, but enlightened today. Secondly...
No. The guilt the guilt trip they're putting on us is not because of the narrative that we have become more enlightened over time. They are trying to throw out the Enlightenment. They do not want reason. They do not want individualism. They want tribalism. This guilt trip is racist. Okay? When they come after you with this guilt trip and they say, the West used to have blacks, therefore everybody with white skin today is guilty of something. That's racism. That's transparent racism and mob baiting. Okay? That is not fit in the Enlightenment narrative of freedom and individualism. Okay? That is throwing freedom and individualism out in favor of groupthink and judging people based on the color of their skin and the history of their great-grandpa. All right? They are not marching forward with the Enlightenment, spreading racism and groupthink. So for you to now fight against those bad people, I admit they're bad, for you to fight against them by throwing the Enlightenment out and recapitulating to some other standard or something is really, really decrepit. It's really stupid. What is going on here?
The lie that the Enlightenment morally evolved the West makes us naive to the dangers our civilization faces.
Our civilization wouldn't exist without the truth of the fact that the Enlightenment morally evolved the West. We wouldn't even have this civilization without that truth. He says it's a lie. It's true, and our civilization wouldn't exist. He says it's a lie that is what for our civilization, and drops the context that our civilization occurs within that truth. You wouldn't even have a civilization to worry about. You're so worried about losing the narrative of our civilization. The narrative of our civilization is reason and the Enlightenment. You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This is a proverbial case of throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Christian belief that man is a sinful creature, capable of committing the most unspeakable evils, was once held by the West.
He's a Christian. He wants us to go back to the view that humans can do unspeakable evil. We don't need to believe in Christianity to believe that. We just need to study history and know our history. And that's easy to have that belief. We don't need to have Christianity and the Bible and all that garbage that hangs on that. We don't need that garbage to be able to believe that humans can do terrible things. See, now he says that was a benefit and a value to society to believe that humans could do terrible things. Gee, how did that work out for World War I and World War II? Did it help avert them or stop them, or the Holocaust, or Soviet Russia and the rampage of Soviet Russia, or the Great March and Long March and whatever happened in China? Excuse me. And the 60 million people dead in China for no good reason? Didn't help any of that, did it? To have Christianity around. Oh, that's right, because they stopped believing in Christianity. That's why those things happened. All right, so if we go back to believing in Christianity, the world would be a better place. This guy's a junky thinker.
Christianity,
by the way, I'll just mention that I was watching some other video. What video was it that was going through? Oh, socialism. David Pacman's Socialism. He was going through the Bible, the Old Testament and then the New Testament, saying that socialism, the injunctions that we think of as socialist, are old. Now, I noticed something about that. The Old Testament injunctions were moral and reasonable even. I mean, not moral as in an objectivist would take them as moral, but moral as in you could understand how a Bronze Age society would use them, and it doesn't blow your mind, and it doesn't make you say that's wicked, right? In contrast, we're going along and they just seems normal. In contrast to the New Testament, each and every one of which preachments seemed wicked. Wicked. So that's a video I may do in the future. I just thought I'd mention that here, that the New Testament, the preachments of the New Testament are wicked. Especially if you just set them side by side with the Old Testament preachments, which are just sort of like common sense, rough and tumble morality. Sort of just common sense justice and stuff like that. Not everything. Don't start quoting bad things from the Old Testament. I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist, so don't go there with me. I know that it's full of crap garbage. Okay, back to this. Christianity's no good. That's junk. It's junky junk. It's terrible. It led to the fall of Rome. It led to the Dark Ages. He thinks it's some value of some kind that's useful. This guy's a junky thinker. This guy's junk.
Man's brutal nature and crafts a morality in order to curb his nature into something healthy. But Christian morality recognizes that man can never be a perfect being. And
perfection is a stupid idea. Even if you're trying to cut a poster to hang up on the wall, it's a stupid idea. You just need to get it within the bounds of what's perfect for your application. Perfection is a stupid idea anywhere that you try to apply it. It's a stupid idea. To say that a human could be perfect, a morally perfect human, is a stupid idea. And it comes from Plato's philosophy. It comes from the idea that there must be a perfect man, and that's, you abstract the measurements of a human being and just float him up into the sky, and that's God. And that's Christianity. And it comes from Plato. And it's a stupid question of, can people be perfect, is stupid. The question is, can you act morally or not? If you can act morally, fine, act morally. But this idea of whether or not perfection exists or it can be obtained or whatever is just a junky, stupid, it's like the old arguments they used to have about dancing on the head of a pin. How many angels could fit on the head of a pin, right? And you can argue about that, but you better not. You really shouldn't. And it's just like junky ideas like that. You better not. You better shouldn't. You better just get on to some good ideas and connect your ideas to reality, right? Angels dancing on the head of a pin is not a real idea. So get on to some real ideas and leave junk like that behind.
If we ever lose sight of God and his moral framework, we're bound to fall into the chaos that human nature is capable of bringing about. Liberalism, on the other hand, sees man as an inherently good creature, and his nature can be changed through education.
Do we see, I don't know if I'm the liberalism, what, okay, he'll put me in the liberalism camp. Objectivists are in the old school liberalism camp of the 1800s. Okay, fine. And we will say, what was the claim he made there? Let me just go back 15 seconds or so.
We're bound to fall into the chaos that human nature is capable of bringing about. Liberalism, on the other hand, sees man as an inherently good creature.
All right, the chaos that we can bring about chaos, right? Liberalism sees man as an inherently good creature. That betrays his lack of education about the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment's major event was the United States of America. And a beautiful, beautiful thing about the United States of America was the system of law that they put into place called the Constitution. And an amazing thing about the Constitution was that it viewed human beings as not too great. Really not too great. And it put all kinds of rules in place to stop human beings from doing terrible things to each other and from coming up with utopian systems and enforcing them on each other. It did not view humans as morally, or what did he say? Something, because, I mean, think about, here was their view of democracy. Democracy destroyed Athens, it killed Socrates. Democracy is not a good thing. We have to put limits on democracy, we have to put restrictions, we have to build some sort of something to control the mob. The democracy, the democratic vote is simply the mob. It's simply the majority rule. Mob rule. It's simply a mob run amok. And the Founding Fathers knew that. They knew that about human nature, which they saw tyranny. Tyranny was just a Greek term for a ruler. A tyrant was a Greek term for a ruler who had full power. Like, nobody could question him. He had full power. He was a tyrant. We still use the word today. We just have negative connotations with it because it did go quite, off the rails. But the Greeks didn't have negative connotations, not when they first started using the word and first invented the concept and first put people up as tyrants in their cities. And that was done by the free-thinking democratic peoples of Greece. So they knew about tyranny, and they knew about suppression of the individual, and the Constitution of the United States of America is a seminal document in the history of mankind. This moron hasn't read it, has he? I'll bet he hasn't even read the Constitution of the United States, has he? He is a moron. Wow.
Nature can be changed through education. That we can become enlightened, and since the 18th century, we supposedly have. So catastrophes of the past could never happen again, as long as we teach everyone the values of liberalism.
Now, I don't know where he gets hogwash like that. It's a tough, rough, tumble world. We fought the Cold War not believing that everybody's good and morally perfect, but believing that the Soviets wanted to come and kill large numbers of us in terrible, terrible ways, and put the rest of us in concentration camps and gulags, and put the remainder in some sort of terrible factories. So we fought the Cold War knowing that terrible things happen and the world's a bad, mean, rough place. That was just the most recent installment. Now we're on to a new installment against Islam. Now I don't know if we're going to win or not. Europe is not. Europe caved in. Europe's done. It gave in to Islam. But is America going to win? I don't know. With guys like this and this kind of junky thinking, we're not going to win. We have to defend freedom tooth and nail. It is not the case that we believe that it's just automatic and human nature is beautiful and moral perfection and progress and stuff. Like I said, he's harping on against these people who are bad people that are attacking the Enlightenment. He thinks that these people are carrying the Enlightenment forward. He's just confused about the left and their racism. Why is he so confused about that? Racist collectivism, he thinks, is the carrying forward of the Enlightenment. Why is he so confused about that? It should be fairly clear, I would think.
Leads us to believe that we don't need social norms, religion, morality, or hierarchy. It suggests that...
So we do need social norms, religion, hierarchy. What did he say? Well, he had a list of 4 things there, didn't he?
Through education. That we can become enlightened, and since the 18th century, we supposedly have. So catastrophes of the past could never happen again, as long as we teach everyone the values of liberalism. This leads us to believe that we don't need social norms, religion, morality, or hierarchy.
Religion, morality, or hierarchy? He's harping on against the people who are against the Enlightenment, and he's pissed about them. He hates them. Some people have come and started to attack the Enlightenment, and he's very annoyed by that, and he sees the Enlightenment being flushed down the toilet. And for some schizophrenic reason, his response is to attack the Enlightenment. This is scary. This is schizophrenic. People who are trying desperately trying to defend the Enlightenment against the attacks against the Enlightenment are attacking the Enlightenment. This is how civilization will go down when its defenders are attacking it. This is how civilization will go down.
Suggests that rather than these having served a civilizational purpose, they were just authoritarian and irrational means of control, which we've done away with through reason and science. And we disregard those who suggest that a lack of order could ever threaten the long-lasting health of our civilization as backward and
Alright, so there he says that those systems that we've done away with reason and science, and now we live in these enlightened modern cultures, those systems were actually, what, stable or something? I mean, they disappeared. They were done away with. What about those systems is a value that we need to cling to? We haven't moved past those systems then? You think we're going to have to go back to those systems and live in those type of systems? What's he saying? Let me rewind a bit.
Hierarchy. It suggests that rather than these having served a civilizational purpose, they were just authoritarian.
Alright, so he says they served a civilizational purpose. Can I agree with you halfway there? Like, you know, these things happened. In that sense, they occurred. Okay, I can't agree with you halfway. They did not serve a purpose, and it would be better if we didn't do a lot of those things. Now, slavery, for example, we just couldn't afford it. It just couldn't afford it. People were going to be, if some people were going to have a certain amount of wealth, other people were not going to have any wealth at all, and slavery was going to occur, and only because somebody could do it to somebody else, not because it's right, and not that it should have happened. Alright, so slavery happened, but wars and monarchy and stuff, how necessary was it? Why did World War I have to happen? Why did World War II have to happen? Why did the great religious wars of the 1500s have to happen? If people would have been reading their Aristotle instead of Descartes, then they wouldn't have. I mean, all right.
Irrational means of control, which we've done away with through reason and science. And we disregard those who suggest that a lack of order could ever threaten the long-lasting health of our civilization as backward and unenlightened bigots who are scared of progress.
Alright, so here's a question I would put to him in light of all this stuff about civilizational collapse and turmoil and stuff. The United States of America is older than all of the governments of Western Europe put together, except, you know, that changed recently. I think it was like 2002 or 1999, and then by that time they finally had enough experience all put together that they are older than America. All put together, they are older than America. America was older than every government in Western Europe put together up until 15 years ago or whatever it was. That's the stability that I'm talking about. That's Enlightenment stability. He's worried here about turmoil and civilizations coming and going and wars and the collapse of systems, and he's worried about that. If you're worried about that, join the Enlightenment. Sign up for the Enlightenment and have a piece of the Constitution of the United States of America and the stability that it has brought us over centuries. Centuries. Join up. Join up to the Enlightenment cause, you moron. Jesus.
This lie of the Enlightenment is what makes us believe that multiculturalism is a good idea. Sure.
Multiculturalism is stupid. It's the stupidest idea ever, and it's against the Enlightenment. Okay? The Enlightenment's not in favor of every single culture. The Enlightenment's in favor of freedom and individualism, and whatever freedom and individualism brings us, and it's a mess. Freedom is a mess. Right? You've got pornographers, you've got junky magazines, you've got cars that are loud and have neon underneath them. Freedom is a mess. It creates some of the tackiest, garbagiest nonsense. It did in ancient Greece, too. It did the same in ancient Greece. As they said later about the philosophers, they said there's no nonsense so absurd that some philosopher doesn't advocate it. Right? So freedom is a mess. But it's stable. At least it's stable. At least the United States of America is stable, and we're free, and we're happy within the borders of the United States. What does he want to supplant it with? He wants to go back to some other system?
It is what makes us believe that multiculturalism is a good idea.
Okay, he's harping against multiculturalism. Look, multiculturalism's junk. Multiculturalism is the people who hate the Enlightenment, attacking the Enlightenment. Okay? The Enlightenment is one culture supreme over all others. The culture of free men, supreme over all the other collectivist, tribalist nonsense. One culture supreme over the entire world, a light unto the world. Okay? That's what the Enlightenment is. multiculturalism hates the Enlightenment. It despises the Enlightenment. He's equating multiculturalism with the Enlightenment. He's saying the Enlightenment marches us forwards towards multiculturalism. No, the Enlightenment smears these cultures on its boots. The Enlightenment smears and smothers and destroys these tribalistic cultures. It destroys them under its boots. Multiculturalism is the lie of progress. It's not progress. That's nonsense. Okay. Have I made myself clear on that? All right.
Sure, it ended in disaster in India, Yugoslavia, Rwanda, the Ottoman Empire, Zimbabwe, and many more, but we're enlightened now. We can overcome our ethnocentrism.
Multiculturalism will always end in disaster if you are worshiping multiculturalism. But if multiculturalism comes about as an accidental side menu behind freedom and individualism, then it's not a problem. It amounts to nothing more than just a variety of restaurants on the streets of your cities. Now, if multiculturalism comes in the form of worshiping those cultures and denigrating your own culture, that's not the Enlightenment. That is not the Enlightenment. That is anti-Enlightenment, socialist, garbagey, dark age, Platonic, religious, anti-progress thinking. He is so mixed up. He has equated the anti-Enlightenment thinkers today with Enlightenment progress, with Enlightenment thinkers. He cannot see the difference between the Enlightenment and anti-Enlightenment thinkers today that are trying to destroy the Enlightenment. He can't tell the difference.
The right education. And the only reason this will fail is because of those racist bigots not committing to making multiculturalism work. It's what makes us believe that we just need to overthrow authoritarian regimes in the Middle East and expose them to the wonders of democracy. Once the people of these countries are shown the amazing, enlightening path of liberalism, they'll let go of their tribal...
this thing about that we just need to go invade Iraq and overthrow it and then convert it to a democracy, right? All right, I'll spend a second or two on that. Look, if we would have done to Iraq what we did to Japan and Germany, then Iraq would be on the same path that Japan and Germany and South Korea, right? South Korea, Japan, and Germany are just fine, and we still have troops in all of those countries, and we didn't just stand back and say, okay, guys, go ahead and vote now, like we did with Iraq, which was stupid. Okay, the way we did Iraq was stupid. We should have done it like we did Germany and Japan and South Korea. Now this guy, this knucklehead, Endeavor, probably does not know the history of the Second World War. I'll bet he doesn't. I'll bet that's how uneducated he is. He probably doesn't know much about the Second World War. And he certainly doesn't know much about anything. If he is equating people who hate and want to destroy the Enlightenment, he equates them with the Enlightenment.
And religious superstitions and embrace freedom and equality. Yes, this idea that we have fundamentally progressed into more ethical creatures truly does blind the West to the dangers that human nature is capable of bringing about. The entire notion of enlightenment is born out of a civilization becoming too accustomed to wealth and security. When people reach all this comfort, but know nothing of the struggle that it took to get there, they look back and see the actions of those who got them there as unjust and barbaric. They see themselves as advanced beyond that, and they become more liberal, letting go of the societal structures that allowed them to get there. And as their comfort begins to deteriorate, they assure themselves that we are enlightened people. These social ills are nothing we can't fix without...
Oh, all right. Well, you can't do that, buddy. The Enlightenment's a historical term that means that we brought reason forward and that reason came to the ascendancy. That's what the Enlightenment means. To equate that with modern liberal junkheads who want trannies to go into all the bathrooms, to say that they call themselves enlightened, you can't equate those terms. Those have nothing to do with each other. These people hate the Enlightenment, they hate reason, and they hate individualism, and they want collectivism, and they want some sort of tribalism.
We couldn't ever lose our sense of security. The truth is that humans are imperfect beings, and they can never be made perfect. Science, reason...
Perfection doesn't apply to human beings. That's a stupid idea, and it's a stupid discussion to even try to have. The idea of perfection doesn't apply to human beings. The only question with human beings is doing right or wrong. Are you going to do what's moral, or are you going to do what's immoral? Did he do a moral action or an immoral action? That's the only question. Was he moral or not? The perfection is a word that doesn't apply to human beings, so stop using it. Except for when Sandra Bullock was about 29, maybe.
Democracy can never change that. The best we can do is create a social order that takes into account human nature and guides man towards a healthy lifestyle. But we must always keep in mind that if order is not upheld, human nature will take its course once again. So no, the Enlightenment did not make us more enlightened. You can never change that. The best we can do is create a social order that takes into account human nature and guides man towards a healthy lifestyle.
That's what the Enlightenment did. He says the best thing that we can do is what the Enlightenment did. How can we do that? How do you propose to create that system you just described? That's the Constitution of the United States of America. How do you propose to create it? Do you know about the Constitution? What fucking country are you from? Is he from Canada or something like that?
Must always keep in mind that if order is not upheld, human nature will take its course once again.
We have to uphold order, right? You have to prevent people from violating each other's rights. I've got this thing called the Bill of Rights you should take a look at. What do you propose to build? What do you propose to give us? What sort of society do you offer?
So no, the Enlightenment did not make us more enlightened, because we can never become more enlightened creatures.
The Enlightenment, just stop harping on that, please. The Enlightenment just enshrined reason as the only absolute. That's what the Enlightenment did.
Today we don't need to be as brutal as we used to survive, but don't think that if our security is ever threatened, we could never see the disasters of the past repeat themselves.
What was the dropping of a nuclear bomb if it wasn't admitting that the world can be shit, you know?
Because we are today the same creatures we have always been. Brutal, ruthless, such is the nature of man.
Yes, we know that. We fought the Cold War. We dropped the nuclear bombs on Japan. We know that. We know that. We know that. We're down for that. Is that it? Is that the end of that video? God almighty.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, share.
I did not enjoy that video. Oh my Jesus on his throne. Alright, well, I guess you've got more coming up, Endeavor. I'll be here for him. Now listen, I don't mind if you switch over to my side and become a hero of the Enlightenment. I don't mind that. Or champion, a hero. I lived during the Enlightenment. A champion of the Enlightenment. Go ahead, join my side. That would be just fine. Otherwise, I'm going to keep mocking you, you ethnocentrist fascist. Is that what you are? You want a racist ethno-state or something like that? Or maybe you just like the way things are now and you just don't want all these trannies in our bathrooms, so you're upset about them being the people that are bringing progress and liberalism? Those are not liberals. That's not progress. Those people are morons. They're Kantians. They are tribalists and they are racists. So don't worry about those people. We need to take the Enlightenment banner and smash those people and smear them on our boots the way that we smeared the Indian culture that we found in the United States on our boots. So that's what the Enlightenment does. Support me, patronize me. If you like me doing this kind of stuff and you want me out here on the internet picking on people who do stupid things, then pay me for it, because I could go drive luxury cars if you guys don't pay me. I just got a guy today. Thank you for joining up, Steve, or whatever your name was, Mike. And I need more. If you're watching these, if you made it all the way to the end of this is video number 2. If you made it all the way to the end of this, you should be a subscriber. You should be one of the ones giving me $5 or $10 a month or 20. And if you can afford it, give me 100. And the more I get, the crazier I can be, and I can start going on plane rides to places and debate people. I could show up at debates and really give them hell. That would be fun, wouldn't it? That's what I want to build this channel up to. And knuckleheads like this are either going to give me an aneurysm or they're giving me fuel, I guess, to burn in my objectivist bonfire. Join around the Enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen. Let us carry the Enlightenment forward.